All right.
Welcome to the show. Let's get this thing going. How y'all doing tonight? Hope everybody's enjoying their week so far. We got a real special show here for you tonight. I got not one, but two of the Licarish Brothers here. Jonathan and Robert, how are you guys doing, man?
Fantastic.
Doing my best.
Yeah. Maintaining?
Trying to.
Yeah. Keeping the distillery running and doing podcasts and driving all over town. I hear you. Well, we got a very special show for you tonight. As most of you know, you saw my post earlier in the week. We recently went up and hung out with these guys and did a barrel pick for a very good friend of mine, Noel Brabant. I said it right, too. Bam. I'm on a roll tonight. Noel's son, him and Jamie, his wife, do a lot for NF research, as you guys know, and you guys very graciously jumped at the opportunity to help them raise some money. So we came up, we did a pick. We're going to have Noel join us here in a little bit. We're going to try and do this. Hope this works for you guys. I'm going to wait till they get the background music turned down in a little bit in here so that we can try and call him on speakerphone, and we'll see if that works.
All right.
We'll throw it out there because Noel, unfortunately, work would not let him be here, so he's traveling right now. I think he's in New Orleans. But, yeah.
Pilots.
Yeah, pilots, you know, the rough life. Biz, while you're up there, can you see if we can get this music down a little more? All right, you good. All right. So, you guys very graciously let us come up. We did a barrel pick with you guys. I think it's one of the best barrel picks I did. And as you guys can see, we got a lot of Iron Root stuff here. I'm a big fan of Iron Root. I collect their Harbinger and their Tri barrels.
Oh, yeah.
That's definitely the cream of the crop for me. And they donated a huge portion of these bottles to this NF research. And if you guys look at the link I shared, there's also an opportunity, even though these barrels still have, 15 minutes?
Yeah. I was hoping there could be a few bottles left for tonight when we got here, but
hey, it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. It's a good barrel. So, I mean, I'm happy for them. That raised really good money for NF research and supporting Jason, their son, which is awesome, man.
Yeah.
That's so cool that you guys did that. But there is a link you guys can also hit on that bottle share that I did, where even if you want to just donate some money to NF research or supporting Jamie, she does like Ironmans and runs these huge marathons. I don't know how she does it, but like she's on top of her game.
I don't think I could do half of what she does.
There's no way. I would pass out in the warm up. I can guarantee you right now. I mean, come on, look at me. I mean, there's no way. But yeah, you guys. Maybe, Jonathan, you want to talk a little bit about the barrel we picked that went out for this? Because, I mean, I know some of these people watching, some people may already have the bottle. Some are picking it up this weekend. I'll see you up there if you're picking up this weekend. But you want to share a little bit about the barrel we picked?
Definitely. So this is one of my kind of favorite mash bills we've been doing. So it's actually a combination. It's mostly yellow dent, but then it also has a little bit of flint corn and a little bit of rye in it. So, and then this is giving it some really interesting flavors. And so we're actually laying a lot of this down now because we like this so much to begin with.
This is the very first batch of this that you ever did, too, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. And so, and this is a 63-gallon barrel.
And we just picked that magic barrel out of the ones we did.
It's got some personality to it. I enjoy it.
It's got great personality. We've talked about this a couple times. I've been chasing cigar blends. I mean, obviously, I'm a big cigar smoker. I really like the cigar blends. And Harbinger has always been one of those things that really hits with me with cigars. Like, it pairs really great. Like, I'm not as big of a fan of the Icarus. I'm not going to lie. Like, Icarus just does something different for me. Hubris, we can find some bottles there that I really like. But the cigar blends, is where I think it's at for me personally right now. I'm sure you guys experience this like palate fatigue and everything else. Yeah. Like, as long as I've been trying and drinking all these whiskeys, not only have I gotten a little fatigued on things, my palate has opened up to so much more. Like, I've bought more tequila in the last 6 months than anything. Mm-hmm. And I used to not be able to drink tequila, but now I love sipping tequila. Maybe it was the shooting it in college years and stuff like that. But nowadays, we're a little older, a little more mature. Yeah, you can drink some cool stuff. So. All right, let's try this. Biz, if you wouldn't mind, that radio kicked right back up, so I don't know what they're doing out there.
I'm on it, sir.
But as soon as we get this going, we're going to try and give Noel a call here in a second, because I know he wants to say a few things, and like I said, we haven't figured this out in episode 6 yet of how to bring someone on remotely and have them be a part of the live show, so we're going to kind of work with what we got here a little bit and see what we can make happen. But let's talk about Iron Root a little bit. I don't want to you guys, we talked about this earlier, this is not going to be your typical, we're going to smoke some cigars, which I know you guys are interested in, trying that out. We're going to drink stuff. I haven't bought a few little surprises we're going to, throw out there on you guys and see what you guys think of those as well.
All right.
But, as you guys can see, they brought some special stuff here, too, that we're going to talk about and get into as well. But, why don't you guys, maybe we'll start with you, Robert. Yeah. Tell them a little bit about you guys' story. Hit on the high notes. How you came from going to law school to I'm going to open up a distillery. I think this is a great idea. Let's jump in the bourbon market.
I was really dumb and young, I think is probably the moral of that story. No, we started, officially started distilling about in 2014. We got the idea originally to distill actually we were at a family reunion in Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
And went to a small distillery because it was in the same shopping center as this Thai food restaurant we went to. And we walked in and we saw the stills, and I know there's always been something in our family, we've loved copper. Our dad was a copper, refiner essentially, since that's what he graduated school for. And so we always like to joke that copper's kind of was in our blood, and we saw it and we joked around at that point, hey, when we retire, that's what we're going to do. My dad's like, no, you definitely need to do that when you retire. Fast forward, I was getting ready to graduate from law school, decided that was not the life for me. I got burnt out of law school really, really fast. So when I was getting ready to graduate, rather than go into legal work, my brother had been slowly putting words out there that, Dad is, keeps mentioning this distillery thing. Maybe you should look into that. And so, usually I'm not really good at taking hints, but that's, I think I took that one and started running with it. And
right on.
Decided at Christmas dinner to inform my mother that when I graduated in May, I was no longer going to be a lawyer. I was going to go pursue a career in distilling.
I bet that was a fun conversation. Your mom's very intense. I love your mom to death. But she kind of has that edge, too, that kind of scares me, too.
She scares everyone.
Yeah, she keeps the shop in line.
Yeah, that's right. You got to have one of those, though.
Yeah, you definitely
got to have one of those. But yeah, no, it was dead silent for a second, and she was like, I know you guys know how to drink it, but do you know how to make it? No, we didn't. No. And Jonathan, you were like, hey, hell, I'm not going to sit in a cubicle.
Yeah, because you, biomedical engineer, if I remember correctly.
Yep. So I did a couple different.
You guys both did a lot of schooling to decide, oh, wait, this isn't for me. Because I can relate to you a little bit in that I thought when I first got out of high school that I was, I went the military route, that didn't work out. And then I was like, architect or lawyer. But I got a job in an insurance company and I got to work with a bunch of lawyers and see the hours they were working and what these guys were doing to try and make partner and stuff. And I was like, after 7 years of law school, if you're lucky and everything goes right, and then spend the next decade plus to try and make partner, I was like, yeah, I don't think I want to go down this road. That does not seem as interesting as it once did. But you jumped into biomedical engineering, which had to be, I assume, pretty much the same lengthy schooling to a certain degree.
Yeah, I spent
even
a lot
more
of time. And so I did industrial engineering originally, then hopped over to biomedical. And actually, when Robert decided that he didn't want to be a lawyer, I was in the middle of a mechanical engineering degree.
Okay.
So, master's degrees is what he was referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to downplay yourself over there.
Spent way too much time in college.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it happens to people that like Texas Tech. I'm not going to... I'll throw in one Texas Tech joke here real quick.
To be fair, one of those years was just a victory lap at Tech. So
yeah, there you go.
They call them super seniors now.
Yeah.
I went that route for a second.
I mean, I still remember one of my favorite experiences. I had not met you yet. We had been Facebook friends and chatted back and forth over some stained glass.
Yeah.
Ironically. But when I showed up, you were fortunately out of town, I believe.
Yeah.
And the bottling equipment that had been waiting on for like almost a year had finally shown up, and it was wrecked inside of the delivery trucks.
Lord, yeah.
And I pulled up at this very instant, about 30 minutes before your mother showed up. So, I mean, like, I got the good window of Jonathan sitting around scratching his head going, I don't know how we're going to get this. And the driver's, like, literally looking at me, and he goes, hey, guys, I mean, I got another delivery to make. Like, I mean, like, I got to unload this, and, like, I have to leave in, like, an hour. And we're all looking, I'm like, bro, there is no way you are remotely leaving before sunset. Because, like, getting these pallets of tractor trailer, I mean, there was literally, like, what, two full tractor trailers loaded with bottling equipment.
And they had, in
and
the
it
shipping
all
process,
shifted.
broken through boxes.
Oh, it was unreal. And I was, like, looking at pulleys and stuff. I was like, what kind of chains do I have in here? And you guys are, like, trying to get lifts and stuff out there. Like, that was insane. And then your mom showed up. That was the golden moment, because your brother's over there kind of like holding down, maintaining, and we're getting stuff going and like trying to figure it out. And I'm throwing out a few suggestions because I'm in construction, and I'm like, maybe if you did this, but I'm not going to put my name behind it because like that's going to be a hairy maneuver if someone's really good with a forklift. But yeah, and your mom showed up, and I felt really sorry for the guys on the other end of that shipping line that had to take that phone call because she was hot.
Yeah, she doesn't suffer fools. I will say that.
Yeah, for sure. So what else did you guys bring today? You know what? Actually, now that we got it quiet in here, let's do this real quick because I know he wants to do this. He's been waiting. Let's see if we can get Noel. No, I can't see like comments on here. I'm trying to roll up here. I assume you're already on here. We got our number one fan on here. Larry Adams is already jumping on here. Welcome, Larry. All right, I'm gonna try calling Noel. We're gonna try to put this on speaker and see if we can't do this. Biz, you got the headphones in, so tell me how well you can hear him when he gets. What's up, Noel?
How you doing?
We're good. All right.
Yeah, you're here.
All right, we're good. All right, well, you're here live with the fellas, man, so microphone is all yours.
How you guys doing today?
Good. No, how's it going, man?
It's good, man. It's good. I can see you guys on my TV now. I wanted to publicly thank you guys for everything you guys have done for my family and for my son. It's really amazing.
Well, we're just happy that we could do something to help out, Noel. So I do want to apologize to you today. I do have a bottle from that pick here. I didn't bring one with all the fancy wax because that bottle is beautiful.
Yeah, the wax and the sticker.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it is fantastic.
Patrick Giano, that dude does some amazing artwork, which is funny.
Yeah, he's pretty impressive. It was really an honor too to ask him to if he would do a photo for us like that. I know he comes in high demand and does a lot of artwork all around different cities, a lot down in Frisco, down in the Rail District, and I was really honored when he said he would do that for us. It was really, really a cool thing to work with him on.
Yeah, and the funny story is when Noel and I got to talking about it, he's one of the guys I was telling you about with the commissioned art piece I'm looking at doing for my bar at home, and he's one of the guys I'd been considering. He's from an area where I used to live in Connecticut, and when Noel said his name, I was like, you're kidding me. Like, how do you know him? Like, how do you get him to do this? So, like, cool story, but, I wanted to make sure Noel got a chance to come on here. You guys, for some of you that watch some of the earlier episodes, I told a story about a little boy that is one of the most respectful little kids you've ever met in your life. And I didn't name names, I didn't do anything, but I was talking about Jason when I told the door opening story. So for any of y'all that were wondering, that is who I was talking about. And Noel and Jamie are two amazing people, and Jason, to me, is one of the sweetest 10-year-old kids you'll ever meet. He's genuinely got a heart of gold, and to be able to be a part, I was truly honored when Noel reached out to me and said, hey, you want to come up to Iron Root and do a pick with us? And I was like, absolutely. How can we promote this more? How can we get more stuff out there to help him with the NF and everything that him and Jamie are doing to raise awareness? So again, I also want to thank you guys for A, coming and being on the podcast, B, letting me be a part of this pick and helping with this cause. But I know it means a lot to Noel too, and he really wished he could be here. We could have pushed this back some more. Scheduling just didn't work out for that, but wanted to make sure he had a chance to jump on here with you guys. I think he just really didn't want to have to actually be here live because he didn't want to be on camera for 2 hours.
I know, he looks better than we do. So
I know, he's all like fit and buff. You know, those Top Gun pilots.
Yeah,
jeez.
Yeah, hardly. I'm sitting in a hotel room in New Orleans right now, real luxurious, let me tell you, but we're nowhere near anywhere good. We're sitting right at the airport here, and I can see the runway out the window. So it's but you know what? I'm glad to be able to patch in here. I want to thank everyone who bought a bottle. That was huge. It went fast, and Jamie and I and the whole family were deeply humbled by that. I was just shocked at the FOMO over that, and we had a tough act to follow up on the first one we did a couple years ago, and I actually think we beat it with this one, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, it sold out in like 15 minutes. Like, I mean, as soon as I was making the post, I was receiving the letter back. As soon as my post actually went live on the channels, I was literally getting the return text from you and the email from Iron Root going, well, it's gone, fellas. Like 220 bottles roughly, gone in 15 minutes.
217.
Yeah. 217 bottles gone in 15 minutes, y'all. Like, that's amazing. And I want it to be known. I mean, I'm sure these guys wouldn't say this, but I mean, I've seen some of this stuff happen before, and it's like people just, they want their name on it and they want to donate. No, these guys really donated. Like, pretty much 50% of the bottle sale went back to this cause. Like, this isn't like just some scheme or like some little gimmick of here of like, oh, $5 a bottle is going here. Like, I'm gonna say like $30+ is going for every bottle. So I mean, you guys do the math. Like, these guys really stepped up, and I know Noel and his family are really grateful for this. I'm grateful you guys did this, and I think it's for a great cause. So kudos to you guys, man, jumping on here with this.
I mean, it was one of the things when we were talking about how to release the bottle and what was kind of the best way to get it out to people, and that's why we decided to do it directly from the distillery, because we knew if we did that, we could raise the most amount of money for charity, and that was really, I mean, obviously that's what the goal was for it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, Noel, you got anything else you want to jump on here and say real quick?
No, I just gotta recognize the fact that my wife is a rock star with these marathons and stuff too. I mean, this is these triathlons, these half Ironmans, and she does it all to raise awareness for Jason. And it's the least thing I could do is try to put together something small to raise a little bit more awareness. But she's really it's impressive to sit back and watch that, because I'm not in shape to do that.
Yeah, no, you guys, it really is. I mean, Jamie runs like the New York, the Boston, these Ironmans. I mean, she does some incredible stuff to raise awareness, and I mean, she's training constantly for this stuff. So, I mean, everybody needs to take their hats off to Jamie on this for sure, because she's the main one, putting in the actual legwork. In reality, what little bit we did is kind of minuscule to what Jamie does on a daily basis for this. But just so you guys know too, before I hop off here with Noel, send me the link again, or if you want to post it in the comments, please post it on either the YouTube or the Facebook. You guys, just because this bottle is sold out, it does not mean y'all still can't help with this cause.
100%.
There are links on there for Jamie's team to help with some of the costs with her training, entering all these marathons, travel, all this stuff. And then there's a direct link to the NF site as well to help raise awareness and money. So I encourage any of y'all that can. I mean, no amount is too small or too big. Like, if you guys got, I don't know, $5, I mean, jump on there and throw it out there, man. It goes to a great cause, and it's greatly, greatly appreciated, and it's going to a great cause. So
I just want to put this out there, though, that we don't keep like that money. Anything that gets donated, we cover our own travel costs. We cover our own training costs. That link goes directly to Children's Tumor Foundation, just in Jason's name. So it doesn't. We don't do anything else with that money. I don't want people to think, oh yeah, they're taking this money.
Yeah.
Go on a trip now. It's no, anything that's donated and all the bottle donations will go directly to Children's Tumor Foundation, directly to research and raise awareness for NF.
There you guys have it. I may have said that a little wrong. I'm glad you clarified that.
No, I will say, though, my wife was slightly disappointed with what we did this year compared to the very first one, because she really wanted me to do the undie run this year. She was really getting her hopes up for that, so I had to let her down.
We tried to move the undie run this year from down in Deep Ellum to a little bit closer up to the Frisco area, and it's tough when you call some of these local businesses in these more affluent areas and say, hey, we want to run around in our underwear after being in a bar for 2 hours, just for 1 hour, or for 1 mile, then we're going to run back to the bar. And you try to explain it to them, and it just doesn't paint a good picture. And then when you show them images, it's still the same picture. You just painted a bunch of people in their underwear, and you don't have to run. But to be honest with you, Dallas actually canceled the undie run this year just from lack of interest. So we're going to try to come up with something in the next year that can maybe raise more awareness, some more fun. We're in talks with my dad, and I are talking about trying to do a golf tournament, something like that. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Well, if we can help in any ways, man, you know how to reach out to us. We'd be happy to support that, put that out there. And, man, congrats on this, man. I know this is a big step for you guys, and hope this helped tremendously in your guys' battle with NF.
Hey, I appreciate you guys. You guys have a good show.
All right, man. Take care, Noel.
Safe flying, man.
Cool. Thank you guys for letting me do that. I know that was a big deal to get Noel on here. He really wanted to have a few words with you guys since you guys are in town and stuff, and thank you guys himself since he couldn't be here. Yeah, let's get those cigars fired up. I know you guys are new to the cigar game, so for all those wondering, both Robert and Jonathan are a little nicotine sensitive from what I was told. So
we're pansies, yeah.
all right, we're not calling anybody pansies here, you know. But with that in mind tonight,
I think we're
here, go with this one. That one's a little bit easier to rock with. Just don't light your eyebrows on fire.
There we go.
So what I went with for both of them is the shorter Alfonsos. I believe those are the number ones. To me, that is the best cigar in the lounge. Those just came in recently. They won't last much longer. They were a super limited release. Same guy that makes Atabey and Byron Nelson and all that stuff. So they are really phenomenal cigars, and they should be very mellow, and they're aged well. So like the nicotine straight up shouldn't be like just kicking your all's ass.
No, that's fantastic.
You know? So, what do y'all suggest we start off with here drinking? Like, I mean, I brought one bottle tonight of the Groot, which is one of my favorites. Is a Harbinger. It was a pick from one of the clubs. I don't even remember which club at this point in time.
Bourbon Bros.
Bourbon Bros, yeah. I think it was, yeah. This is a great bottle. I got a couple of these. This is the last one, so I wanted to bring that up here. But maybe, Jonathan, you want to talk about a couple of these that you've set out here. Tell people about some of the things you guys have coming up, because you got a lot of cool projects. I'm not going to lie, this one here in the middle, I am really excited about. I got to try it with you guys when I was up at the distillery. And as I said, I've been chasing these cigar blends, and what you have going right there would make Alan Bishop jealous.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, so, of course, we got the JWB barrel that we got for NF right there, so we'll probably dip into that in a second. But,
yeah, y'all, this is the bottle, like you said earlier. It's not all waxed and stickered, so if any of y'all got this, you'll know this is going to have a really cool sticker of Jamie running through New York, I think it is on the sticker, that Patrick Giano did. It's a really amazing, cool sticker, kind of Batman comic book-ish. It's really, really cool. And then it's blue and green wax, which I believe is the colors for the NF. So, y'all, if you got one of those, I'd hold on to it, but they're going to go fast, because that's some really good bourbon we happen to pick there.
I didn't bring one of those with the wax on there because I'd be stealing somebody's bottle that was already sold at that point.
Yeah.
So we've got that guy. And then we also brought some of our Icarus. We know that's not your favorite. Some people do like it with cigars.
Hey, I'll try it again. I've tried it twice. It was one of those things that hit my palate kind of hard early on. But again, my palate's been changing. So, I mean.
Are you a peat fan at all?
I'm not a peat fan.
That's probably why you're not a fan of that one.
So, yeah, this is a corn whiskey that's finished in both port and peat. So.
What I've learned is I'm not a peated fan, but I'm a super peated fan. So like, my dad kind of ruined Scotch for me as a kid. Man, I don't think I've told this story on here, but I guess I will. So my dad liked to drink. Probably a little more than I realized when I was a kid. My dad's relaxation was coming home, and we had one of these old school quick trip mugs. I think they're about 32 ounces, insulated mug. He'd fill it with ice, half Scotch, half water. And it wasn't always the best Scotch. But as a kid, when you woke up in the morning, Dad would have one or two of those a night. Well, in between, he'd fill it up with water and, chug some water. Well, if he finished the night and that water was in there as a little kid waiting in the morning, you go downstairs and you dry mouth in the morning, you grab an insulated mug and get fresh water.
No.
Perfect. But if he poured that second one and didn't finish it, you got cheap, shitty Scotch. Watered down that's been sitting out all night. And I can't tell you how many times I made that mistake. And even times when I thought, I smelled it. Oh, no, there's nothing in here. This is water. No, I was still wrong. Multiple times till I just quit doing that. But both of my brothers, my younger brother and my older brother, actually like Scotch. I've learned now that I do like some Scotches. It is non-peated Scotches. But then Alex Baptista went on a mission to prove me wrong with that as well. And I also learned that I can do the super peateds, like the Octomores.
There you go.
Now, that I will say comes with a caveat, because I could still taste that like 2 days later, even after brushing my teeth multiple times, because that just absolutely coats the entire palate. And you literally feel like you stuck your head in a barbecue smoker and just sat in there for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, Pete will do that to you. It sticks around. Oh, man.
All right, so Licarish, we've learned, is peated. That's probably why that's the one I don't care for as much. What else you got up there?
We've got a couple other special releases coming up. So I've got one that's coming out in November, and this is actually a brandy. And so this is going to be a combination of Cognac brandy, so stuff we imported from France, and then some of our own brandy that we distilled a long time ago. So what we're going to do is we actually did a blend of this. We're going to call anything that comes out that's kind of a mix of our product and something else that we brought in is going to be known as sleight of hand. And so the inaugural release of this we're doing for Denison, the town we're from.
Yep.
It's its 150th anniversary this year, and we are sister cities with Cognac, France. And that has a lot to do with a long story about grapes and disease and TV months, and that's why we're called Iron Root. But so sleight of hand is a commemorative blend. We call it the Sister Cities blend. So for that 150th anniversary this year.
Awesome. I'll have to try that later on. Now I'm wishing I brought another bottle from home. I'll have to have you guys out to the house, because Alan sent me what he said was one of the best apple brandies he's ever made. From his, I think, grandfather or great-grandfather's recipe that he'd been working on, and he felt like this was like, he even gave me a recipe for making some special drink in the holidays with it, and I'm dying to try it. I've been sitting on it for about 3 years because I hadn't found, I guess I have to go to a farmer's market or something. I need unfermented apple cider and a cinnamon stick, and I forget.
Apple cider.
Yeah. Ooh, wow. Yeah, like fresh pressed apple cider. So that should be really amazing.
You don't get that a lot down here.
No, it's a lot harder to find, let's talk about this a little bit. So I'm not going to say any names. I don't like a lot of Texas whiskey. There's some I like. I think their price point's too high. Your guys is one that I feel like it pushes the price point a little bit. You guys have gotten that price point a lot better in the last couple of years, which, I mean, you guys are now, 7 years distilling now. So you guys have gotten that down there. I feel like you guys have a really good price point on your bourbons, and it's really good. There's a couple others, I just can't do it. There is a taste, a very And Jonathan, maybe this is the question for you. How do you deal with that? Or is there something you're doing in your distilling techniques, or is it the barrel aging? What are you doing to fight that? Because I can't tell you what that taste is, and I know you and I talked about it a little bit when we were up there doing the pick, but there is a very, very solid, like almost mineral-y taste I get out of several brands, one in particular in Texas, but it's like I can't get past it. And everything they put out has that taste in it. I've tasted it in y'all's once or twice, but not very often. What do you think that is, and what do you guys do to work around that? Because Texas is a challenge to distill in.
Yeah, I think it's kind of on multiple fronts. So I think part of it, I think, is a yeast selection and what you're going to kind of put into it to begin with. So we use some of our favorite yeasts are a little bit higher ester, so they're a little bit fruitier and not quite as clean fermenting. And so there tends to be a lot more flavor coming from the yeast when we're doing that. But then also when we start talking about the barrels and how we treat the barrels, we approach things a lot more like you would see in France. So we're not quite as aggressive with the aging. So I know in other parts of Texas, a lot of the warehouses are getting 140 degrees, which is pretty extreme aging conditions.
Yeah.
So what we have up
but
in
you would
Denison,
consider like rapid aging, basically, pretty much, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of the artificial rapid aging.
Yeah, but when you get it up there that much of a temperature swing, like that's got to play a big role.
Oh yes, definitely. And just the way the spirits can interact with the wood is going to be a little bit different at that point in time. Yeah. I think the hottest I've seen our warehouse, even in the summer, on the ground level at least, has been 98 degrees. Right. And so...
So our warehouse is actually cooler than most of the ones in Kentucky, ironically, during the summer. Which is kind of crazy to think about.
That's real crazy. Especially we had, 60-something days over 100 degrees this summer.
Warehouse never got over 98 degrees this summer.
It's awesome. Have you guys ever considered putting in a basement as taboo as that is in Texas? You can still do it. I mean, most people in Texas, for those of you from up north or anything, because I grew up north for a while, you have basements like you have pools in Texas. Mm-hmm. People don't build the basements because of A, the cost, and B, they'd rather have a pool. They don't really need a basement like you do up north. So traditionally, and I've heard rumors between distillers at times talking about and I was like, that might be a really great idea. Build a basement type bunker for your barrels.
That would work. It would slow it down a lot. So a lot of the distillers who are used to, the 3-year age statements, 4-year age statements, it would put them at a lot longer age statement to get to where they're at currently.
I was going to say, I think it was Treaty Oak who actually did an experiment where they literally buried some barrels.
They did.
And aged them, they had some in their normal warehouse and some that they literally buried in the ground just to see what the difference would be.
Oh, wow.
It did what you thought it would.
Massive difference.
So you have to try some of these?
Yeah, we definitely tried it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
what was the key notes that you got from the barrels that were in the ground?
So the in the ground, obviously you have way more constant temperature, so there's less shifting in and out of the oaks. When you looked at the spirit, obviously it was much lighter. It was aging kind of like it was in Scotland. It was very slow and steady maturation. You're talking 2-3 years old. It hadn't done a bunch of stuff yet. It was still fairly light. You still got some of your ester stuff going on, but when you bury it, you're impacting how much oxygen you have being able to go into the barrel, because obviously the barrel's surrounded by dirt, essentially.
Yeah.
So
that also helps maintain humidity a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's also another factor that we have in our warehouse. We're a lot more humid up in Denison than a lot of Texas.
Yeah.
And I think that arid aging does different things to the barrel, the way it interacts, what it's pulling out.
Yeah, because you get the seasons in Kentucky like that and stuff. I mean, you get those humid summers, and you get the drier winters, but then you get snowstorms and stuff like that too that really add character. It pulls from these barrels in different ways.
I think you also see the pot still, I think, is a huge impact too overall. I mean, when people are talking, they're usually used to Kentucky, Tennessee whiskeys. There's very few, or in fact, I don't know any major distillery that does 100% pot still distillate in the U.S., any of the large guys. And so when you're looking at the difference between pot still and calm still spirits is drastic. as far as, again, the ester profile you're looking at, how it plays around with the grain, that you get a lot more grain influence from pot still. I mean, it's why Alan, his big motto for their distillery is respect the grain. And that's because when you use pot stills and you play with pot stills so much, it really is, you are going to be focusing a lot more on grain flavors, which I think historically people have associated more with young spirit. That isn't necessarily the case when it comes to pot still products. You can still have grain characteristics. They're mature grain characteristics when you age them up and you do stuff, but it's very different than what you're going to see coming out of Kentucky or Tennessee.
Yeah, and I mean, you know what? That's you guys probably don't know this about me. I've said it on here a couple times, and a lot of my friends know this. So when I got into the bourbon game, like I was always like, growing up Crown drinker. I was a Crown guy. So that's what my grandfather drank. That's what I would go see my grandfather. He'd have a Crown Royal bag filled with change, and I'd go buy baseball cards and all that stuff. So Crown was kind of instilled in me. But as I progressed down that road, once I really got into bourbon and started collecting bourbon, I got into the craft distilling. And that's where I fell in love, because I was like, I mean, yes, I have some of those bottles that, everybody, scours the earth for, this allocated stuff, and I'm not knocking those. There are some of those that are absolutely phenomenal. There's a reason they've been around a long time. But to me, I enjoyed it almost like finding a new band. Like if you go find a new band and you can introduce your friends to this band and be like, check this out. Nobody really knows about this yet. Like these guys are going to be blowing up. I kind of treated whiskey and bourbon the same way. Like I went and sought craft distillers that were not just selling a story of I found my grandfather's, my great-great-grandfather's secret recipe book, and I found this one kernel of corn and planted a new variety, and no one's ever going to have a bottle that tastes like this. But somebody that was doing something unique, pushing the boundaries a little bit. And I contribute a lot of that to meeting Alan very early on in my bourbon journey. Like sitting and talking with Alan, it was in Deggy World. I got a free pass to Deggy World, and I'm like a Fred Minnick's thing. And I'm like walking through this virtual world in my avatar. My wife's looking at me like I'm on drugs. It's COVID time. I'm like over here on my laptop playing around. And like I walk by this character, which I mean, can y'all even imagine what Alan Bishop's avatar looked like? I mean,
I cannot.
It was pretty spot on, man. Like if they'd have let him go full WWE, he would have done it. But like, I mean, it was straight up like Alan Bishop, and like I just started talking to him, and man, we talked so long. He was supposed to be on the like symposium thing with him, and he's like, I gotta go, man. I'm 5 minutes late to being on the symposium, and like that's where our friendship began. And it actually started with me telling him, like, I got into a debate with another guy very well known in the bourbon industry about what happens once you open up a bottle. Because, like, I've had bottles of everything. Just pick one. Go with Harbinger. I've had a bottle of Harbinger. First pour out of the barrel or out of the bottle, didn't really care for it and was kind of like, man, is that what I ate today? Is that how I'm feeling today? Because I'm moody with my alcohol just like I am music. And I was like, what's going on here? And then set the bottle aside, go back to it a week or two later, and it changes. And there's guys that have done like all kinds of research saying that nothing happens. Well, I'm kind of calling bullshit, because you open the bottle, there's stuff in there to preserve it and to keep the bottle sealed, and then you open it up and then it kind of releases, and it could be harsh on that first pour. And I personally found, and Alan kind of agreed with me, and this other person was like, no, scientifically nothing happens. And I'm like,
I'm going to go on record right now, and again, anyone who disagrees with this can come talk to me afterwards, and we can have a scientific discussion of it. They do change, and
they have to.
And the people who have been doing their research on it, one, they're looking basically exclusively at column still distillate and chill filtered spirit.
Okay.
And
Usually pretty young.
Yeah, and so what they're doing is they're removing a lot of the volatile compounds when you're looking at column still spirit and chill filtration. And so the tests that they're doing with one is like where you're going to see the least reactivity, the least change. When you start playing with pot still spirit, stuff with a lot of oils in it, esterification and transesterification, again, getting to all the stuff, that occurs. It's swapping of the products in there. It doesn't. You don't need anything else for it to start swapping and doing the things it's going to do, other than the presence of oxygen. I could get into a lot of really fun science. Again, I had a lot of fun with Alan in St. Louis, going to some of the yeast presentations and stuff like that, talking about what's actually occurring and what chemical reactions are coming. There are things that occur in the bottle, especially with pot still spirits. So there are types of whiskey that are going to be less reactive and some that are more, but they do change over time, and anyone who tells you differently is wrong.
I agree 1,000%. So that's like what started Alan and I's conversation. And we've gone same thing, we've gone round and round about this, and just me trying to understand more, because Alan is a plethora of knowledge when it comes to this stuff, and that's actually what turned me on to you guys early on too, from talking to him and Bradley over at Liquor King. That dude has one of the best palates in the area. He's amazing what he does. But that's kind of how I got onto that too, and talking about, that's another great subject, is the heritage grains and the heritage stuff you guys are working to bring back, and that you guys are planting in and around the distillery and bringing back. What's your take on that? And how do you feel about that? I know Alan is very passionate about this stuff, and that's actually what I'm really hoping for down the road. I'm going to drop this right now. I want to see an Iron Root and Alan Bishop combination on something, because between the two of you, three of you, I feel like that could be something just of epic proportions, of something really coming together. I don't know what it would be. I don't know what that would look like, feel like, taste like, smell like, but that would be something really cool.
We almost got one together last year, but we just didn't have enough barrels to do the collab last year. So there's probably something down the pipeline, I imagine. I've been trying to get him down here for years now.
You and me both. I've told him, I've got a bedroom for you with your name on it. I'll keep you hammered the entire time you're here. You do have to jump on the podcast and do it with me, because I can't figure out this, even though I've talked to him for hours trying to figure out how to get them on there, because they all do theirs remote. Him and Christy call in. Yeah, they do that stuff, but to go live, I could do it and we could broadcast this after the fact, but there's a certain percentage of our guests that like watching this live. It goes out, it's live on YouTube and Facebook, but it goes out on Apple Podcasts and Spotify after the fact. So we could do that eventually if we really had to, but nah, I'm going to keep pulling and twisting, trying to get Alan actually in Texas, because I think that would be epically good.
He needs to get his butt down here.
Right? He's been selling bottles down for a long time, and I know he doesn't like to travel. I know he doesn't like doing the famous people tour and come down and visit and all stuff, but he needs to do that. I think we need to get him out of Indiana. Yeah, maybe if Jonathan offered to swamp wrestle him if he didn't come down, because he's always trying to get somebody to swamp wrestle him up there.
I don't even know what that means.
They have a swamp outside the back of French Lick,
and they just wrestle.
And it literally looks like the Lagoon of Death.
How do you think Larry Bird got so strong?
I don't think anybody's ever actually been in it, but it's a running joke up there of somebody's going to swamp wrestle up there.
Okay.
I feel maybe we make that happen. Maybe we get Alan down to swamp wrestle in Texas or something. I'm sure we could get some kind of
roll around in Texoma.
Yeah, get him up to Texoma or something. Do something funny there. I feel we can make that happen. What's your take on that, though? We get back to that, the heritage corns and grains and stuff like that, because I know you guys use a lot of that as well.
I think there's a lot of untapped flavor that we just haven't really been paying attention to. So in the past, it's always kind of been, and when we were first starting, there was some big people in the industry that were saying that corn plays no part in the flavor of a bourbon.
Yeah. They've never had bloody butcher corn, first foremost.
So, there's an argument
but they were column stilling everything.
Yeah, and it's commodity grains, and it's hard to kind of track what's going on. But basically, a lot of the grain that's out there, if you're going to be making tortilla chips or something out of that corn, they don't really want a whole lot of flavor in it typically. So
yeah, they're trying to put out something very standard that we can consistently do every time with not a lot of variation.
yeah, the flavors in the salsa, right?
Yeah.
Shit, right.
But
So
that's something that amazes me too with what you guys do. I mean, because like to blend something consistently, like Harbinger, it has a very distinct taste. But as we all know, you can go pull 10 barrels of Harbinger, and not a single one of those is going to taste the same.
And none of them taste like the regular Harbinger release.
No, but like but you guys have found what you put out as the regular Harbinger release, and to blend to that out of those barrels is something that still this day amazes me. Like I can taste things. I've wrecked my nose. I broke my nose like at least 3 times. Had 2 rhinoplasties. My smell is not great, even pre-COVID. But if I can smell something, I smell it very strongly. It's either not there or
like
it's
super.
all there. But my palate is a lot different. You know, like it has a lot more variation in it. I've learned to adapt to that. But I cannot be like a Nancy the nose. Like I can't do that stuff.
I always had a lot of sinus issues kind of
Yeah.
growing up, and so one of the tricks that I like to do is you'll see a lot of people that do a lot of nosing will just sit there and nose something for like 15 minutes. I'll actually nose it for a little bit, put a little bit on my palate, and then go back to nosing, so I can use the kind of there's a back pathway up into your nasal cavity, and so you can actually through a retro process be able to actually taste
Like
things
retrohaling?
and smell. Yes. So you're able to smell a lot more. So a lot of times you'll see if I'm actually nosing something, I'll just put a little bit on my palate just to help myself out. It's kind of.
That's something cool you guys can do with cigars too. I know you guys aren't big cigar smokers, and you have, so you can actually. This is something Pops here taught me to be able to get more flavors out of cigars, because you don't fully inhale it, but if you push the last like 15% out your nasal cavity,
I tried. I failed miserably.
You'll taste a lot more of it, and it's like it's something I've learned to do with cigars. That like, because a lot of times a cigar's a cigar, but like then you smoke a really good cigar and you get some more of that, and it's not the burn, it's not hot. Same thing with bourbon. That's kind of where I ended up here. You know, there's a lot of people like. I'm relatively new to the cigar game in the last 3 or 4 years, short of having one on vacation. But I knew a lot about bourbon, so I helped support their bourbon clubs and help and do stuff with bourbon up here, and shared that knowledge in exchange for cigar knowledge. So
There you go.
yeah. Well, what's something you guys like? Let's see here. Like, what's something you guys like that threw you into left field, like something you thought you knew about spirits, but like once you really got into it, you're like, man, I didn't have a clue. Actually, it's this. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of it. What's something that really stands out?
When we first got into it, and even when we first started the distillery, we were under the impression that some of the people we'd learned from was you just basically put stuff in the barrel, and then you stick it in the back, and then when it turns a certain age, you get it out, and it's ready. And it doesn't matter. It's all going to taste the same, kind of was the concept behind it. And so we'd had stuff in barrel for, I don't know, a month. And then all of a sudden, Nancy started telling us a little bit more about maturation. And we were at that point, we were like, oh, we need to learn a lot really fast. And so that's when we kind of delved into the maturation side a lot more. And because going into it, we were all about the distillation side. And so we've been doing all this studying there, and we were definitely at a deficit at the beginning. Now I think we've got a much better handle on what we're doing. But I think still on the maturation side was understanding that when we started the industry in Texas was so young that we didn't have a basis of knowledge for how to treat it. And so a lot of people early on were just kind of using small barrels and using the heat and just kind of ripping through it. And we're like, well, that sounds like the best plan from a business standpoint, right? You get liquid out faster. We've actually figured out that it's better to go the opposite way. So earlier on, I said that the JWB pick there is, it's in 60.
So good, by the way, you guys. Like I am reliving this pick moment. Like I'm telling y'all, any of you that got this bottle, you got a treat. Like this is a really, really good bottle.
It's in a 63-gallon barrel as opposed to your typical 55 you see in Kentucky. or 53, sorry. And the reason why we went with the 63 gallon is because Texas we can get it to age longer in Texas. We can get more of that maturation to happen. It's all the oxygen dependent chemical reactions by keeping it in barrel a little bit longer. And so we actually kind of use some more kind of traditional European techniques as far as using larger cooperage to try and mitigate the Texas environment. And it took us a while to actually learn that and make that switch. So.
What were some of the things you guys did to help? You said you had to like jump down like the warp hole basically to like get warp speed and like kind of catch up here because you guys, and I mean like y'all are no joke. I mean most of these people I feel like know, but in case you don't, like I think I'm going to say at least 2019 all the way through 2022, USA Today rated you guys like the #1 craft distillery. And you guys have won numerous other awards. So even though you guys are sitting here and saying this like for our guests and stuff here, like you guys are saying like we're still figuring this out. We still have a lot to learn, which I admire. And I think that's awesome that you guys have that mentality. But what are some of the things you guys did knowing that? Because I think that's one of the great lessons here, because if you realize you're at a disadvantage or you feel like there's something else you need to learn or that you could tweak, what was it you guys put into your plan of action that helped you start doing those things?
I think part of it was talking with the masters. Honestly, it was talking more with Hubert. It was talking, going over to France, talking to some of the Cognac distillers, and really, understanding a lot about, even just other types of spirits, not even necessarily talking to the bourbon guys. For us, I think that was probably more important. I mean, because the style of distillation that we do with the pot still, going and trying to replicate Kentucky style whiskey, you weren't going to achieve.
He's good.
Nope.
Biz, feel free to help yourself down here
sure
too.
You need water or anything.
Oh, no, we're good.
They got their box of water down by their feet. I got them covered, Biz.
I'm gonna grab some of the Todd stuff here.
Yeah.
He was talking to some of the people, some other types of distillers that were masters of their craft, and learning about what they were looking for and why they were looking for things and how they were achieving different flavors and how could you increase fruit profile, how could you get chocolate, and looking at where flavor comes from, and then really trying to kind of break down our process to move our whiskey more in the direction that we wanted it to go. And
I think we had to take that knowledge. We had to learn that first.
Right.
And then we had to figure out how to apply it to what we were doing in Texas, because you can't just apply what happens in France and expect to get the same results they get.
Yeah.
So it's not the same environment. We're not using the same cooperage. We're not using a lot of the same stuff that they are. So kind of taking that knowledge, adapting it to our own environment. Like a lot of people like to use a char 3 barrel. What we found empirically early on was that we put some stuff in char 3, char 4, we put some stuff in char 1, and what we figured out was that with the pot still distillate, that heavy char acts like a big filter. It was taking out some of the grain character. We were putting those heirloom grains in there that had all these great flavors, and then we put them in a char 4 barrel and ripped it right out. And it was one of these things where it dawned on us, we're like, maybe we should do that.
Kind of like chill filtering almost, like like you were pulling out oils and stuff that you didn't necessarily want out, and we're learning blindly that like, hey, this is coming out of the barrel
because of the intense Texas environment. I mean, if you're up north where it's cooler, higher char makes more sense because you're looking for some level of filtration.
Right.
When you have that whiskey ripping in and out of the wood, we wanted to dial it back to maintain some of those other characteristics that we were losing.
Oh, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. So I just threw 2 bottles on the table, y'all. So what I did was I wanted to throw a few things that were craft distillery to me that I thought these guys would appreciate and would start other great conversation too, which one of them is Frey Ranch Rye. It's aged 6 years. Like these guys like grow all their stuff. I mean, everything from start to finish is done on their ranch, which is something I think is really cool. It's starting to get more popular, be more available across the U.S. So I brought that. The other one, which I'd be really interested to hear your guys' take on. So Todd Leopold watching Alan's podcast and stuff was like, I think he's one of the most interesting people in the world. Like, I've got to meet this guy at some point.
Todd's brilliant.
Todd is brilliant.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Todd and Alan in the same room and just be a fly on the wall. And listen to him.
I have the same goal. Like, I literally want to be in the same room with, like, you guys, Todd, and Alan. I think that would be, like, the most epic discussion about bourbon and whiskey ever, and other spirits for that matter. Because one of the things I've learned going through my journey of learning more about spirits is, man, there's not a lot of, I mean, there is a lot of difference when you really get into the minutia, but all spirits can be relatively made the same. And it's kind of like the finishing touches and like what grain you use and these different things in these mash bills, but like, they're not so different. Like, I mean, I get in this argument with my brother-in-law all the time, like, you guys will probably find this funny, like, and he's going to hate that I'm saying this on here, but he'll go buy vodka at times, and it's like, I'm not saying there's not a difference between, like, drinking Tito's vodka and McCormick's vodka. McCormick's, to me, is horrible. But, like, you know, Tito's vodka, $40 bottle, let's just say, and it's very good. But I don't know a lot of people that drink vodka straight, unless you're Russian or just some kind of hardcore dude trying to put hair on your chest, as my grandfather would say. Most people don't drink vodka straight. They're putting it in something. They're making some kind of cocktail out of it. But to me, what I always found funny and why I make fun of my brother-in-law every now and then is, by definition, vodka is a clear, tasteless, and odorless spirit. Like, you're maxing out whatever still you're using, and you can literally throw about anything in there, and you can make vodka.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of people do, especially early on, to like get by as a distiller, because it's quick, it's easy, you can throw it out there on the market real fast, which is one thing I love that you guys did not do. I think that's awesome. I mean, like, you guys...
we did do vodka,
you
don't
did
you?
a little bit, but like, you didn't go like full bore like a lot of other people.
Our vodka had flavor.
Yeah. Well, my brother-in-law, my big joke and goal with him was like, okay, so you just paid $300 for this Russian vodka. Because the only difference really with vodka is what water it was cut with, to a certain degree. So I like to make fun of him a little bit. Like, so is Russian water that much better than the springs down in Texas? Because he's a diehard UT fan too.
What would be really fun is to do a vodka tasting with you on different grains, different things with vodka.
Yeah.
And now that you've been drinking whiskey and you drink it straight, letting you taste vodkas side by side. And it'd be really fun to see your reaction to that.
You're trying to kill my hammer on my brother-in-law here.
Yeah,
I see what you're doing.
A little bit. I'm saying, as far as variation, your flavor wheel is much more narrow when it comes to vodka.
Yeah.
But there definitely are differences on vodkas depending on production methodology and stuff like that.
Well, especially if you go to kind of old school Eastern European, a lot of times they only distill it 3 times. When they're doing it, and so
maintain a lot.
Well, I mean, I've gotten to drink stuff that I know. I mean, I don't like black licorice, but yet I can drink Jaeger all day long, and people think that tastes like black licorice.
Yeah.
And then you have stuff like Alan Bishop got me drinking absinthe. I mean, I would have been.
You don't like licorice and you're drinking absinthe?
I'll drink Alan's absinthe.
Alan's absinthe is really good.
I mean, it's
the
amazing.
barrel-aged one?
Yeah. And then like the gin. I'm not a big gin person either, but I've learned I just don't like juniper heavy gin. If you get some of these other flavored, like I've got a Japanese one that's like strawberry or raspberry, it's amazing. And if you'd have made me bet money on that years ago, I'd have been like, yeah, absolutely not. There's no way I'm drinking that. Have I told you all the Groot story with Alan?
No.
Oh, man, you guys will like this. So, me not wanting to sound like a dumbass, Alan sends me stuff from time to time, and it's just like, it comes in the typical Alan fashion, as you guys can imagine. And I get a bottle that literally looks like a flask of moonshine, basically. And it'll have something written on it. Well, this particular one said Groot.
Oh,
and
yeah,
I'm
you
like,
did tell me this one.
I think I told you. I don't think I told Jonathan.
Yeah.
So I get this bottle that says Groot. Man, and I don't want to sound like a dumbass. So what's the first thing you do? I Googled it.
Yeah.
I Googled it. Well, Groot is what the Vikings used to add hops back in the day to their beer before there were hops. And I'm looking at this bottle, right? I mean, it's clear. It looks like moonshine. And I'm like, this is definitely not beer. He did not send me beer. So what am I drinking here? So I did the next worst thing, in my opinion, that I could have done. I smelled it. This bottle, when you open it up, literally smells like a senior graduation party in Cancun. The worst bottle of mezcal you can find that has this much and the worm in it at the end of the night, and you smell that bottle. That's exactly what it smells like. I almost couldn't drink it after smelling it. So I smelled it, I put it down, I was like, I don't know about this. I tell my older brother, I was like, you're gonna have to try this with me. Like, we're gonna go down this rabbit hole at the same time. We tried it. It's absolutely amazing. It's one of the best spirits I've ever drank in my life. And so then I call Alan. And, you know, typically I'm like, what's up, buddy? You know, and I'm like, hey, man, you got to tell me about this Groot. He's like, Groot? I'm like, yeah, Groot. The shit you sent me. Tell me about it. Like, I Googled it. I know it's what the Vikings use as hops, blah, 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 blah. And I'm trying to go down this rabbit hole with him, and he's like, I was like, but this is not beer. He goes, yeah. So you remember that cool shit you saw me doing on the farm where I had the stones and I went like all Viking distilling something? He goes, yeah. So I made Groot, so I made Viking beer. But then I was like, well, the Vikings were smart enough to do this. And if you know Alan, like, this is the way Alan's mind works. And it's like amazing to watch this stuff to come together. He's like, well, if the Vikings were smart enough to make beer, what if the Vikings decided to make their own whiskey? So he made Viking light whiskey, basically, out of the Groot, and that's what I was drinking. So if the Vikings made whiskey, that's what Groot is in Alan Bishop world.
I mean,
and when he sends me the next bottles, I'll have to have you guys over. Like you'll have to try this because it's like, it's unreal. And it's like a spirit you've never tasted. Like, how often does that happen with you guys? Because, like, you guys have several lines of things you distill, and you distill for others. You do blends with others. How often does it happen that you guys, like, try something out and you're just like, wow, I got to figure out a way to play with this more, or I got to find a way to do X, Y, Z with this?
Ooh, boy.
Pretty regularly, or is this like a 1 in every 10 experiments you try?
This guy, so we like to say Jonathan's the gas and I'm generally the brake, where he wants to, I say, push the envelope on things. I'm like, whoa, let's, Jonathan, you got 7 experiments we can do this year. Is that where you want to use one of those? Is that what you want to do?
7 full size.
7, yeah, it's not really 7 full size. We can do small.
7. 7's the lucky number,
Seven's a lucky number.
I like that.
Small batch stuff I get away with all the time. So.
Okay.
I mean, we've done a lot of ridiculous things over the years. Silly things. I mean, we had there's a YouTube channel called Still It. A guy named Jesse from New Zealand.
Okay.
It's a home distilling YouTube channel because it's legal to home distill in New Zealand. He came to Texas.
He bet me I couldn't ferment Doritos.
He bet you couldn't ferment Doritos.
Yep. So Jonathan
Fermented them and then distilled them.
Spicy Doritos or
There's
Cool
some
Ranch
spicy in there.
Doritos?
Mostly
nacho cheese. There's some spicy nacho cheese in there. And then for good measure, you added some beaver nuggets to it from Buc-ee's. So
We went all Texas experimenting here. I like this.
So weird, crazy thing. And it tastes like Dorito. It's a spirit that tastes like Doritos, which is very weird.
I don't hate it.
No, I don't hate it either, which is weird to say, like, it's a cheesy spirit, which is like, what? But
We get a lot of influence from things that people bring for us to taste, and we've got a really good friend by the name of Chris Trevino. He goes by the Liquor Hound on YouTube.
Okay.
And he's a purveyor of all things spirit, right? And so he brings us all sorts of very, very interesting things, him and all his friends. And so there's been some very interesting spirits from Mexico that he's brought that were distilled in like wooden trees.
Bless you.
And it's very much like that Groot experience where you smell it and you're like, I don't know if I want to taste this.
what, the stink bug mezcal?
Well, there's that one.
Sure.
That's like Groot, man. I'm telling you, this Groot, if you smell it, I mean, that is legit. The best description I can give you is Cancun high school graduation party, the worst bottle, cheapest bottle of mezcal you can find, and there's this much left in it with the worm in it, and it's been sitting out for days. Like it smelled. My brother even was like, and he has a little wider palate than I do, and he was like, "Are we really gonna drink this?" And I was like, "Yeah, man, we're gonna go down this rabbit hole. Alan sent it. We're gonna try this."
So, yeah.
I mean, I think one of the coolest things, like from one of our brethren here in Texas that I've had, is actually a product called Totem that Real Ale Distilling does. It's really cool. It's he literally forages they do everything with malt, obviously because they're with Real Ale Brewing, but he forages all the botanicals for it, and then he actually hunts a hog, and they actually hang part of the hog. I forget which part of the hog. In the still as they're distilling it. It's got like dewberries and all sorts of crazy stuff in it.
It's like a Pachuga-esque type spirit.
Malt spirit.
Wow.
Super cool. I mean, it's a clear spirit as well. Super fun to drink. Really different spirit. But
So what do y'all think? So one of the bottles I brought here, I think I talked about the Fray Rancho, but I didn't talk about the Todd Leopolds. We mentioned him, and maybe you guys know a little more about this than I do. So the specialty thing with this bottle is it's 3-chamber whiskey, and it's rye whiskey. He's the only person that I know of. I think he's one of 2 that are still in operation. I think the other one's a rum
in Caribbean.
in the Caribbean.
Barbados, I think.
Okay, in Barbados, they have a 3-chamber still. But he has the other one, and he spent God knows how much money building another 3-chamber distill off of historical documents and did this. And he's got this, I've seen pictures of it. I haven't got to go there yet, but like crazy, like where they're like maturating the like
It's so
grains
loud
and
when
stuff.
it runs.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because it literally thumps inside of it as it's running. It's crazy. I think when last I heard from him, he was talking about when Vendome, they were building it for him, so the company that builds a lot of distills here in the US, they were like, we can't guarantee this is gonna work even because of like the way it's designed. They were like, because they hadn't built one hadn't been built since like 1920 or something.
Yeah, like 1920. Like so, my understanding on the stills, on these 3-chamber stills, was prior to the war, they were very prominent all up and down the East Coast. Like there were 3-chamber stills everywhere, but for whatever reason, during war times, breaking down these 3-chamber stills and using them for wartime efforts was like the thing to do. I don't know why that is. I don't know what component or what they were distilling or using them for, but it was prominent. Like all of them disappeared. And for whatever reason, when the wartime ended, they did not come back. Nobody went back to 3-chamber. They went to pot still and column still. Like they just went back to the roots and stayed there. He's the first person to bring that back, and you know it's funny. I have some buddies that are like huge rye guys. They either love this or they absolutely hate it. I personally love it, and I get something out of it every time. Like the price point on it sucks, and I know Todd hates that, and he's trying to like do it, but like, I mean, I get it. He went to Vendome and had something made that hasn't been made since the 1920s. He's the only other person other than somebody in Barbados that's making rum with it. I mean, so you're paying for something extra there, but like, what does that bottle inspire you to do, or what is it like? Kind of like, what does it put out there for you? Like, I'm just curious because you guys are so connoisseurs of all this stuff.
It makes me want to. And again, Jonathan, we actually have a couple antique cognac stills that we own that we haven't set up yet because fund fire regulations with direct fire stills. But at some point, those guys will get activated and get up and running. But it's playing around again with older like antique stills and playing around with that. Again, we talked about the Armagnac stills.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like the Armagnac still. So,
cool. I love Armagnacs. That's one of those things I've found in the last like 2 years that like I really like, but they're expensive. And the good ones, they're all like 18 plus years, and they're like.
The sad thing is, over here they're expensive. You go over to France, and
they're cheap.
Yeah, you can buy a 30-year-old Armagnac for like $120. It's 30 years old.
Yeah, and it's $400 here.
Yeah.
Armagnac was traditionally produced on a traveling still, so it would have been a still on a cart.
Yeah.
And it's
a direct fire, like precursor to the coffee still and the column still,
which is not dissimilar to what the 3-chamber still was doing.
Mm-hmm.
It was meant to increase efficiency, and so conceptually it's kind of similar from that standpoint. But I wouldn't mind getting my hands on one of those guys and seeing what bourbon tasted like off of.
This is funny. I gotta take a little pause here and give you some shit because my boy Rodney Smith is giving you hell. He's like, "Damn, you got Robert out of the house."
Yeah, that's true. Well, Jonathan's even tougher to get than me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, y'all don't know, like, we had to have like a whole rally conversation while we're doing the pick. And it was like, well, we have the stills firing off at 2 a.m. and we got a bachelor running, but oh wait, we have this cousin or somebody that's in town. We're going to leave him and both of us can come. I'm like, we are booking this. We're booking it right now. Because I don't know. I mean, I did a lot of research, like looking back. Both of you on a podcast at the same time? Has that even happened yet?
Maybe.
Not in the same room, I don't think.
Yeah, sometimes different rooms, but probably 3 times maybe that we've been on something together.
Yeah. So y'all... This is special. You guys got both of them here tonight. Like, so
us hanging out after hours. Ugh.
Yeah, hanging out after hours. They got up early in the morning. Some of them had to sleep on couches. I won't name names, but to like go fire up the stills this morning and stuff like. But they're here with y'all. So any of y'all got questions that you want to do? I'm gonna make sure Biz is doing his job down there, and if you guys got some good questions you want to ask them, please. Hop on, ask them, because this is y'all show too. Like, ask away. I know, it's so good, right?
So we haven't really talked about that one yet.
Yeah, talk about this one, because this is the cigar blend. And talk about, because I find this kind of ironic, but also cool, the fact that you're not a big cigar smoker. You actually have a nicotine, like I don't know what you'd call that. Like,
we're very sensitive to
they're
nicotine.
very sensitive to nicotine. So, like, for you to be able to take your spirits and make a cigar blend when you're sensitive to nicotine, what is it that you shoot for in making a cigar blend, and what are the characteristics that you're going for there? Because that's literally what I hunt, and I'm not gonna lie, like, out of what I've had so far, this, and I hadn't tasted it since we've been back up there. That JWB pick it's fire, y'all. Y'all are gonna love this pick. Any of y'all that got it, it's amazing. It competes with the tri-barrel blends and some of the like rare stuff I have from Iron Root. That cigar blend too, that is next level. It's awesome. I mean.
So just to be fair to the audience out here, this one's not out yet.
Yeah, it's not out.
That'll be coming out.
It's going to be our 10th anniversary.
It might come out. I'm going to try and buy as much of it as I can before y'all even get the chance, because this shit is amazing.
So this is the mock blend for what we're going to do. So most of these barrels still have a couple of years before they even get pulled. But there should be quite a bit of this when we do it. So we kind of want to put a lot of it together. But when we're making the cigar blend, now to be fair, we don't smoke cigars very well.
Right.
But we do love the flavors.
Yeah.
And so when we were putting this together, we wanted to kind of support the flavor. So this is not meant to taste like you're drinking a cigar. It may have some of the flavors that you see in a good cigar.
If it tasted like you were drinking a cigar, not even a cigar smoker would buy that. Like, that's what I'm saying. That is what is so impressive to me, is that you don't smoke many cigars, but you're able to put out a phenomenal cigar blend because you're still able to pick out notes that a cigar smoker would appreciate complementing his cigar.
Well, I do smoke cigars, so y'all may have to pass that bottle down.
Hey, Biz, Biz, try this. You for sure need to try this.
Your man Noel said he wants a case ASAP.
Well, no, I'm jumping in ahead of you here. I've already reserved my case, so like you can get the second one in 2 years.
But for me, it's really fun because most cigar blends have some sort of brandy finish. There's Armagnac or Cognac or.
So do all cigar blends have one of those three components, or what is it to y'all that you're setting the standard as that makes a cigar blend?
To be fair, cigar blends for whiskey are relatively new. It's generally was done with Cognac. Maybe you saw like a.
So the best one I've had to date is Starlight. Starlight Huber's cigar blend is better than the Magnus cigar blend. To me personally, Magnus is hard to get. Starlight I can find.
It's aged in the Brazilian wood.
Okay.
It's a Brazilian wood aged. Okay. Product. So it's got a different cask type that's involved with it. This guy is not. This is actually a pure straight bourbon, not aged in any other types of wood or anything like that. It was just casks that Jonathan has slowly curated over the years.
So I think the genesis for the whole concept for us, we always wanted to do a cigar blend, but first to do one without finishes on it, and so it would be an actual bourbon. Start with Barrel 320 for me. So Barrel 320 had this massive kind of Armagnac vibe, and sometimes we get a little bit of brandy-ish qualities in our spirits. It has to do with the higher esters that we're using. Sometimes they'll go a little rummy, some bourbons. Sometimes they'll go a little bit more Armagnac-y. Is that a word?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Cool, it is tonight.
It is now.
So Barrel 320 was a massive Armagnac note. It also was supported with kind of some leather, something that made you feel like you're sitting in kind of like an old library with some old books around you. And when I tasted that barrel, it just made me say, God, I wish I had a cigar. And so that was kind of the genesis point for that. And then we've been kind of curating on it. Whenever I find flavors in other barrels that kind of support that particular barrel, we've been kind of setting them aside and saying, no, that one's for cigar blend in the future. And so right now I think there's...
So what is that flavor? What if you could put a word or words to that, what is that to you? Because you're one of the guys that goes back there and tastes all these different barrels. And you're doing these blends, what are those notes you're getting when you think cigar blend?
So in the brandy
besides
world,
Armagnac, Cognac, brandy, like what are some of the other, for somebody that like really, like say they can't put a word to it like Armagnac or Cognac or brandy. What if it's something like, because I know you guys both like to cook, you guys you're inspired by that too. What is something you guys would say like you key in on as non-cigar smokers that like that kind of throws something out there for you?
I don't think it's strange that you like all of a sudden you like things that have the aniseed, the black licorice note in there. A lot of Armagnac has that note in there, and it's not very much pronounced to where you're going to say, "No, that's a black licorice."
Right. It's a Twizzler black licorice.
But it's a very kind of. It seems like it should be a lighter flavor, but it's actually a very dark flavor. And so it pushes a lot of things to a darker side. But there is a lot of times a little bit of sweetness with it. Mm-hmm. And so I like that particular flavor for supporting a cigar from that standpoint is you can, if you have something that's super dry, even if it's really old and if you're like, oh, this is just a really old barrel, like there's some really old whiskey in this one, which we'll talk about in a second.
Okay.
That one pairs okay with cigars, but if it's a lot older, a lot drier, it doesn't quite balance out with tobacco as well.
Which is why you're looking at a lot of Armagnac. You get some of the sweetness from the brandy, some of the fruit from the brandy.
I just poured a little bit of the brandy. That goes well, very well
that
too.
Should.
Yeah,
very well.
So a lot of the stuff in brandy, you get a lot of aniseed flavors in them. So and a lot of that's all kind of grape based with
sweet
it.
characteristics.
So what do you guys think about the cigars? So like I know you're not big cigar guys.
Well, I love this
You're
one.
smoking the Alfonso.
I can smoke that.
Neither of you are turning green.
No.
You seem to be enjoying it.
I definitely have a little bit of head high, I can tell you that right now.
Okay.
But,
how's it going? Like what are you really enjoying it with?
For
It's
me,
like what's pulling out the flavor for y'all in that Alfonso?
to me, it's the sweetness from the corn is really pairing really nicely because you get this kind of beautiful, sweet, oily character that when you breathe in the cigar, it holds on to kind of that. I mean, all that kind of leathery, what I consider like tobacco-y, spicy characteristic of the cigar. Now, this is a very light cigar, obviously, but it like holds it on your palate, and you just, to me, I taste it better by having the kind of that.
Dave,
oily,
you owe me a sponsorship now. Like, these guys are gonna buy some Alfonsos for you.
No, shoot.
I think it is very much textural too, and I think you were hitting on that. So a lot of times people say that our whiskey drinks a little bit higher proof, and drinks well there, and it's because it has a lot of that kind of oily texture to it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't come off as this kind of thing that just kind of hits your tongue, evaporates off, and then gives you dry mouth on
It's
the
good to
backside.
me. A cigar blend has to like not overwhelm you on the tip of the palate.
That's fair.
It has to start getting you on the mid palate, but it absolutely has to have a finish. If it doesn't have a finish, your cigar, no matter that's me, an experienced cigar guy, it's gonna overwhelm your cigar. So you can't get past that. So to me, it's got to be something that like, okay, I get the little bit of flavor on the tip of my tongue. By mid palate, it's firing up, it's kind of expanding, but then that finish with the exhale is kind of like, oh, that was really complimentary.
It holds this kind of beautiful sweetness on the back of the palate. So when you breathe in with the cigar, the smoke comes in and kind of like mixes with that kind of sweeter, that sweeter oak that's sitting on the back of the palate. I mean, to me, you get some really beautiful stuff on the brandies that we call, in the cognac world or Armagnac, they call it rancio, which is like this. Rancio is kind of like this, sometimes it can go very blue cheesy, but you get a lot of times like this, like date and like sweet, like
Plumish.
caramelized plum date that's just this big, sweet, dried fruit that kind
Walnut
of
sometimes,
that hangs out on your back palate with all the sweeter characteristics and kind of like, I don't know, it melds with the smoke. And that's what I love about it.
That's awesome, man.
So-
Like, thank you for sharing that. Like, that's what I try to figure out what it is that I'm really drawn to with cigar blends because, I mean, I smoke like one cigar a day on average, no more than 4, typically. I mean, I just came off a trip from Myrtle Beach golfing with buddies from Canada, so yeah, 4 cigars a day was not uncommon, but pairing it with something and then like opening up their minds to try something new was kind of a challenge, like I'll never forget one of the guys, I hope you're listening to this, Keith, he told me go buy the best version of Canadian whiskey you can find. I said, what's that? I said, he goes, Gibson Rare and Finest. I drain poured it. It's one of the only bottles I've ever drain poured. I hate to say this. I am putting that out there. I drain poured it. Granted, I didn't have the 12 or 15 year version he had. But I was like, why wouldn't you go with like Crown Royal, at least like 18 year or something to like say this represents what we're really trying to put out as a spirit. It kind of drove me nuts.
You look at what the Canadians do, though. I mean, they've got
the rise.
They have kind of 2 different real styles of whiskey. They do. They have their like what we would call light whiskey in the United States, which is very highly distilled. It's fairly neutral. When you get some super high age versions of those, that can be really beautiful and really awesome. But at a younger age, they tend to be a little tinny. They tend to be very light overall. Again, it's more ethanol-y. Again, essentially kind of like barrel aging vodka at some level.
Yeah.
When you get to the younger guys. But then they also do what they call their flavoring whiskeys, which is like what we would do with like traditional American ryes. And they're really beautiful. I mean, obviously, Whistle Pig made a mountain of money off of buying the flavoring rye whiskeys out of Canada. Most of like the really famous Whistle Pigs are Canadian rye.
Yeah.
And some of those are absolutely beautiful.
So do you guys? So this is a theory of mine. I'll throw it out here. probably going to kick myself in the ass for saying this, but I think rye is the next thing that's going to go like super allocated. I think rye.
Oh, it's already there.
I mean, it's there, but like there's just not enough rye being made anymore, and people have steered away from rye because they thought it was hot, bold, spicy, and not all rye is hot, bold, and spicy. There's some, what Todd's doing with rye in the 3-chamber, what Frey Ranch is doing with rye. I mean, like, there's so many things being done with rye. I feel like you guys are missing out. If you're not buying rye right now, I feel like that's the next little thing, like where we went, because I feel like we went from
brought the rye.
yeah, we went from like craft beer. Craft beer was the thing from like 2013 to like 2019. It started dying out because all the big name brands came in and bought these breweries up and said, "Hey, yeah, we're gonna sell your beer now." And then the bourbon and spirit industry, to me, kind of came in and said, "Well, this is kind of failing, and we're not selling as much spirits now, so we're gonna go back to craft cocktails." And you've seen this craft cocktail boom from like the let's say 2017 to 2021. And that's kind of been the thing. I personally think the next big thing is going to be all this stuff with rye. I feel like people are bringing back heirloom corns and stuff like that, but there's only a few places making really top-notch rye, and everybody's fighting to get this really good rye. I feel like rye, I mean, maybe you guys disagree, but I'd love to hear your opinions on it, of what rye is doing moving down the road.
Rye, I mean, I can tell you it's going to be hitting stores sometime in the next week or two. Is actually the St. Sally that we do. That's actually our first rye. It is MGP 7-year-old rye blended with our kind of 3 and 4-year-old pot still rye that we do, which is, so it's super high rye with a little bit like a 65% rye.
Okay.
That we aged in Tokaj cask, which is a Hungarian noble rot wine. It's kind of like Sauternes, essentially. And that was our first kind of foray into releasing any rye. But I can tell you, there's a bunch of really fun rye being aged right now. It's coming, and that people have been working on it for about a decade now. As far as I think the thought and the knowledge of rye is coming. I mean, High West made their name off of these super old, really fun ryes that no one cared about, and that's
they still have that. I feel like they only tapped into the people that really liked high peated scotches, because like a lot of their stuff, like the Boo Rye, my brother-in-law brought me one of those back, and like I was so excited, and he was like, "I only got this one bottle," but he's like, "If you want it, you can just have the rest of this bottle." And I was like, man, it was kind of disappointing. And some of them like really go into this like
the midwinters.
It's really
is the
peated.
one to go to.
Midwinters is, I mean, yeah, but those are so hard to get. That's why I employ my audience to like go try craft distillers rye. Like, it's coming. People are working on it. You guys are like. Yeah. You're not disputing what I'm saying here, and you're saying ryes are in the progress of like coming down the pipeline, and I feel like there's gonna be a lot more allocated rye coming down the road. Like, so get it while you can.
Thomas H. Handy. I mean, you can look at there's already a number of like highly allocated rye. More of that's coming.
For a long time, there was only a handful of rye producers, as you were saying earlier.
Yeah, it's like bottle and bond almost.
And what that did is that really narrowed the profile of rye down to where there was only a few. So now that you have all the craft distillers that are producing, they're using different varietals of rye. So there's a lot of different differentiation going on in the rye world. So if you weren't a rye fan 10 years ago, it's a whole new game now.
Yeah, you're stepping into like... Yeah, your new whole generation of rye.
Yeah.
Like, what guys were experimenting on 10 years ago was what you're drinking right now. What they've been experimenting on for the last 10 years is rye, and it's about to hit the market, and it's going to be It's going to be something y'all need to look out for. That's my own personal take on this as a spirits drinker, somebody that really enjoys spirits.
I mean, one of my personal holy grails that I've gotten fortunate to taste just a couple of times over the last 6 years or so was the Booker's Rye. If you've ever tried
Booker's Rye
it's killer. It's crazy, and it's delicious. And I can tell you that like that kicked the pants off of a lot of distillers. Like, hey, we need to really start looking at rye and start looking at what we can do. And that's, I mean, I can only talk Jonathan into doing it every so often because rye is the biggest pain in the butt to make, to be honest with you.
One of the 7. Tell me you have like 2 out of the 7 at least are rye based.
There's a couple ryes aging in the warehouse.
All right. I'm trying to throw something out there for y'all.
There's a couple back there. It's about every other year Jonathan will actually make it because he forgets how much he hated making it. That's how long it takes him to.
Why is rye such a pain in the ass?
Rye as a grain processing wise is a lot more difficult. Corn's easy. I love corn mash bills. It's like 100% corn mash bill. So you're in, you're out. There's nothing sticky.
Because you haven't talked about like oats or anything weird like that. Like Alan, I feel like has perfected adding oats, and
we've got some oats is old school, and that's
it's old school.
Yeah,
so like Irish poutine, man.
Well, yeah, all the way back to there too. But even I think the traditional moonshine mash bill in our region, up by Denison, included oats, and oats we used some early on. Just to see what would happen.
We had like 3 barrels that had oats in them, yeah.
And I loved them. But they have a little bit different flavor.
I should have brought the whiskey witch for you guys tonight. I should have done that.
I actually have some newer stuff that I laid down with some oats in there.
I got a couple bottles of that.
About a year ago. So.
All right. So I know I'm about to get Biz over here. Give me the timestamp over here. So there's something we do on every one of my shows. I hope this hasn't felt like your guys' typical interview, because I don't want it to be an interview. Like, if y'all want to like get stats and basic interview shit, go watch or go to their website at ironrootdistillery.com. Go watch some of the old podcasts. That's not what this is about. Hopefully y'all got some like really good knowledge from this, but there is something I do at the end of every show. You guys can go, and we'll start. Who wants to go first before I even say what we're going to do?
I'll do it. Why not?
You're going to do it?
I'll go first.
Right. So, you can go wherever you want with this. And nobody has said the F word in the first 5 minutes of the show. So, this might be like one of the highest rated shows. Like, might be the first time in like all of my podcasts.
I feel like I've let Alan down now.
Yeah. Alan, just for you, brother. Mm-hmm. I mean, we already put the picture up earlier. But we do a segment called Give Us Your 2 Cents. Give Us Your 2 Cents can be literally about anything. It could be something that's weighing on you. It could be something you felt like you've never had a platform to say it on. It could be, I mean, really, maybe it's something you were inspired to say because of the show. Or it could just be like, hey, I just want to say this right now. Like, give us your 2 cents, and you give us your 2 cents about whatever you want to give us your 2 cents about.
No idea. It's a good thing you're going first.
Oh, Lord. Again, I'll say it. I'm a homer. When it comes to Texas whiskey is a very young industry in general. I think the best Texas whiskeys are yet to be here. I think they are coming.
And he is on the board of directors, you guys.
Not anymore.
I'm
retired.
Retired.
No, I honestly think that you started to see we're a couple generations now what I consider in on Texas whiskey as far as experimentation, playing around with, understanding the weather. I think you're about to start seeing another level of Texas whiskey start
from
coming.
The creative process.
I'll tell you the most recent set of barrels that we've tasted through are my favorite barrels that we've ever produced. That this next set, blown away with what's coming out this year. Like, if you tasted our whiskey in the past and you're like, yeah, Iron Root's not my thing, get ready, because we've got some just monster whiskeys coming. And I tasted some things from other distilleries around the state. I can say the exact same thing. Like, it's about to get real crazy and really fun around here.
So what he said from that, and I want to add to this, because I'm not born and raised in Texas. I claim Texas as home because I've lived here since '96. A lot of Texas whiskeys don't do a lot for me. They have this very distinct note. I think you're about to see from what he just said, I think you're about to see the turn of the horizon on here. And people are figuring out how to do this right in Texas. Whether you liked them in the past or you don't like them now, you need to give them a try again and try some. And I will even do that with someone.
12 to 24 months, you need to be trying some of the crazy Texas whiskeys coming. And I don't think that's just solely on Texas. I think that's in a lot of craft whiskey in general. I think you're seeing starting to become the craft whiskey movement's becoming mature, and I think that you're going to start seeing a different level of craft whiskey. To me, one of the most beautiful things in the whiskey world right now is regionalization. You're starting to see beautiful things coming out of Florida, Washington State, with some of the single malts from up there. Westward's put out some killer stuff.
Well, it's going to lead into mine.
Yeah. And before you go into yours, I want to throw this out there. And I'm going to try and throw you a curveball here, because I feel like it's due. I feel like you have reached master distiller, and I know Alan would hate this as much as you're probably hating me right now for saying this. But in all due respect, I feel like you have reached a master distiller level in Texas. And with knowing what's come on the horizon, knowing you have admittedly come on here and said, like, hey, we came out here, we did this thing. It didn't work out, like, right out the gate. Even if people loved it, we still felt like there was improvement to be made. You're kind of coming into your age of, you're really hitting that sweet spot of what you've been trying to do. Like, you're coming into a point in time where stuff you've had sitting in the warehouse is coming of age, and you're really excited to release it. You have other new projects that are coming in, and you're kind of like, man, I thought that was good, but this is great. And you're kind of evolving in that. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, I want you to reconsider what you're going to put out as your 2 cents. What are your 2 cents on Texas distilling right now that you want to throw out there, of like where y'all are at right now and what is coming?
I think there's a couple things coming.
Cool.
I think rye's a hot take. I think that's going to be fantastic. Brandy is going to be a big thing. American single malt's going to be a big thing. But I think the biggest thing is you're going to see a shift in the U.S. in totality, that where it's going to be. We've all been all about the master distiller in the U.S.
Yeah, everybody wants that title.
I think blenders are going to, just like they are in Europe, I think those are eventually going to supersede everything. And I think you're going to see the ability to blend is going to be something that's going to kind of come to its own fruition soon.
Right on. So. And let's give your mom a shout out too, because like if we could have had her on here too, I felt that would have really been pulling it to get you guys and your mom on here. We might have to do another episode where we do that.
I want to see her smoke a cigar.
All right. Challenge accepted. I will work on that, but like let's do that. Like what? Because your mom brings a lot of that into the process of like trying to do that. Like so, what do you guys want to say about that? Because like I feel like she adds a crucial component to that. I experienced it there when we were doing the barrel pick, of her being involved and kind of like, hey, let's try this, let's do this.
She's the heart of the whole operation.
I will say, because initially the original idea was just Jonathan and I, and that's the way we started for the first couple weeks.
It didn't work.
And I don't think we would have survived. I don't think Jonathan and I would have killed each other probably. Mom honestly held this whole thing together. She's what made Jonathan and I actually work together, because we're two very, very different people.
Drastically
on
different.
On a lot of different
But y'all
ways.
mesh well.
We do. I mean, it's yin
I
and
think
yang.
I think about my two brothers, and like, yeah, what you guys do together is cool. 'Cause I've worked with my brother before, and it's hard.
Mom has the magical ability. Again, when you look at the yin and yang, there's a little white and the black, little black and the white, and I think she helps us see, like, because obviously there's a little bit of each other in each other, but we're very different at the end of the day. She helps us see those parts of ourselves in each other, which is why we are able to work together, why we're able to do things, and why we're able to, why we were able to continue going and continue pushing and doing kind of the crazy things we were able to do.
There's a reason they call her the mother of Texas whiskey.
Yeah. No, I get it. And I've met her. I've had the pleasure of knowing her pretty well.
She's a force of nature, man.
She's awesome.
She's awesome. Don't cross her.
Yeah, I definitely would not want to do that. But guys, I know I got to wrap this up. Thank you so much for coming out here, spending the time with us.
Thanks, Dennis. And honestly, anytime you want it, just let us know. We'll be here.
Yeah, we'll do this again. Next time we'll bring Mom in. We'll have Mom here for the next one.
I like it.
But thank you. Thanks, really appreciate both of you.
Pleasure, sir.
And you guys, please go up, and I posted this before. I'll post it again later tonight. If you guys can help out with this NF stuff, it's awesome, man. I mean, this really is a great cause. What Noel and Jamie are doing and trying to bring attention to this is amazing. Their son Jason, he's an awesome, awesome kid. I love him to death. And if you guys can help with this NF research in any way, shape, or form, whether you got the bottle, you can donate, please help these guys out. Like, this is a really, truly great cause. And I want to thank all of y'all for joining us tonight, and we'll see you next time. Peace.